Hello everyone, Equipment War, and welcome to my little video about the new skill gems and even some of the new changes in the update later this day. So this is just before the update. I'm gonna go through as best I can some of the new skill gems and even some of the changes they're going to do. So let's start with a new skill gem. The new skill gem Kinetic Blast. Fire a projectiles that wound from a wand. So if you're a wonder character who uses the wand's physical damage, this would be a fantastic skill for you. It's like the normal wand skill attack. I can't power cipher, I think it's called. Well, but this one have a AoE impact, AoE effect. So that would be really interesting. And actually, I actually have started to think about maybe I'm actually gonna do a wand character. So when the exploding surrounds the point of impact, so there will be a series of small explosion around the impact, which damaging enemies on that area. Are available from Lost in Love quest for Witch and Shadow. It's the first quest you're gonna do when you reach Act 3 for Witch and Shadow. And they added a new dexterity skill. Blink Arrow. Fire an arrow that target destination. When the arrow lands, you are teleported to it, and a clone is summoned to your old location. The clone is a minion that uses your bow and quiver. Available from Lost in Love quest for Duelist, Ranger, Shadow, and Scion. So the same thing as the one before. When you reach Act 3. When you complete the first quest, Lost in Love, in Act 3, you will you can choose to get this skill here. Blink Arrow works. It's like a teleport. It's like lightning warp, fast for basically a bow user. You fire arrow, you teleport into the place where your arrow lands, and you have a clone of yourself summoned on your original location. That would be really interesting, and that's definitely a skill I want to try on my what's his name now? And sometimes I forget things. Actually my ranger. That's something I will try out on my ranger. And here we have something really interesting. Mirror arrow. Fire arrow to the target location. When the arrow lands, a clone is summoned. The clone is a minion to use your bow and quiver. Available from the Enemy at the Gate quest in Cruel for Duelist, Ranger, and Shadow. So the first thing you do when you reach Cruel, when you are complete normal, when you kill Hellock and reach Lionel's Watch, you will be able to choose this skill. Can also be created by a vendor recipe using a Blink Arrow gem plus and Orb of Alteration, and the recepts works in reverse order. So you can I don't know how many clones you can have at the same time, maybe just one, but you can have more than one. You can basically make a bow summer. You can actually summon minions with your bow, so that's if you can have more than one clone, that's open up some ideas for new builds. You can be a bow summoner who summons minions with a bow, using bow and arrow. That would be really fun if that is the case. I don't know, it doesn't say how many clones you can have at the same time. If you only can have one, or you can have many. So we will see how that works. That's a very interesting skill. And they have added a new strange and intelligence skill, Static Strike. This is a skill I am really interested in. Strike your enemy, building up static energy on you. The energy damages enemies around you when it expires. Available from the Enemy at the Gate quest for Templar and Marauder, and from Mercy Mission quest for the Duelist and Witch. So when you're doing the first thing you do actually, when you get to the Tidal Island, that's the quest. If you complete the quest for Tidal Island, you can either choose this gem for both Witch and Duelist. And when the first you complete when you start a new game, the first characters who can choose this skill is the Marauder and Templar. That makes sense actually. So I'm not really sure how this will work. I think you're hitting the enemy, you're building up some type of stacks, and when the stacks reach a certain level, you maybe have a electrical explosion around you, but I'm not really sure how it will work yet, so I will come back to that later. But it looks really interesting, and I'm really hyped for that, that skill. So here we have another skill, another strange skill, reckoning. I can't really pronounce that, I'm sorry for that. Perform a swift counterattack against enemies in a cone sharp. I don't really know what that means, I'm sorry for that. When you block with your shield. So basically I think this starting to, these new skill gems, which I'm going to add it to the game now, have much things to do with actually blocking with your shield. So blocking will trigger some attacks now, and that's a really interesting thing. So if you block, you counterattack against an enemy, so that will be really interesting actually. So when you block now, you basically have like reflect. You like attack back at the enemy you're blocking. So that will be a really interesting thing actually. Available for the Intruders in the Black quest for the Templar, Marauder, Duelist, Ranger, and Scion. The Intruders in Black, that is, let me think now. When you reach in Act 2 and go to the Chamber of Sin, that is the quest you can get the skill gem from. So when you reach Chamber of Sin and complete that quest, you will be able to get this skill gem. If I remember right, I think that's the called Intruders in Black. I'm not really sure, but I think it was that. And they added a new strange skill, Vengeance. Chance to perform a swift counterattack against all enemies around you when you are hit. Weapon range, increased area for the attack, available from the Lost in Love quest for Templar, Marauder, and Duelist. Lots of this game, many of this game will actually be really interesting to use in PvP later. So this is like when you, this is like, how I'm gonna say this now. This is like when you get hit by an attack and take damage. I think it works with magic as well. If you get hit by either melee or magic or bows or whatever, you have a chance to use an attack with damage all enemies around you. To vengeance. You get vengeance on your enemy because before they hit you and you get angry on them. And it's the same as before. You get this from the quest Lost in Love for the Templar, Marauder, and Duelist. So that means if you're doing the first quest for Act 3 in normal, you can choose this skill. And that's a really interesting skill, and I definitely going to try it out. And then we have a new dexterity skill gem called Riposte. I actually pronounced that right. Perform a deadly counterattack when you block. Use both weapons when you are dual wielding. Available from Lost in Love quest for Duelist, Ranger, Scion, and Shadow. I said them in wrong way. So if you block, you will use a deadly attack. So maybe that's have a high crit chance or something interesting like that. I definitely like this type of skill. I can use this on my Lightning Strike Shadow maybe, and either some other characters using shield or block a lot. So that will be interesting, and that's the same thing before. Act 3, normal, first quest, Lost in Love. That's how you can get this skill gem for Duelist, Ranger, Shadow, and Scion, as I said before. So do the first quest. There are going to be a lot of things to choose now in that quest. And now we go to a Strange Intelligence support gem. This is a support gem. Physical to lightning. You probably know that there exists a support gem called cold to fire. So it's making you cold damage to fire damage. This one makes you physical damage to lightning damage. And that's a really interesting one. I don't really know what cold to fire will do actually to help you and do more damage. I don't really know that. I never tried it. So, but to get this one, you get them from the Sharp and Cruel quest for the Templar, Shadow, and Scion. And this quest I'm actually really sorry for, because I don't really know what quests that are. So I can't really say what quest that is. But I can see if I can take a look at that later. And then introduce an event panel that showcases upcoming events, PvP tournaments and races. It allows you to join races, events from anywhere in the game. And you can also join ranked PvP requests to access the panel. Press B. So now you don't need to leave the game if you want to join a race. You see, it's like 5 minutes left, 5 minutes to the next races. I can just press a button and directly go to the races and start racing. That's going to be really helpful actually. I really like that. And now here's the thing I like the most of all. Added support for stash item highlighting. When you enter the text in the highlight item box, it highlights any items in the current web tab that contains that item. So now you don't need, like me, go search your whole freaking stash to find like one amulet or a piece of currency when you can find, or a map. You can just type what you need to have and it will be highlighted. So I love that. I am wanting to have that so long time. And they added 2 new microtransactions. I have actually looked at the Whooper Flicker Strike effect, and that's actually something I'm going to buy. I love that. And a Serpent Egg Wand skin, which looks really awesome. But if you're using Flick Strike, I'm highly recommending this one. I'm not going to show it right here, so I'm going to check that out later. And Mino, I'm not going to talk about this. They have do some interesting changes here, but actually content from the Rampage and Beyond League is something I'm actually going to talk about. After the 2 last challenge leagues ended, you are fold the content in the core Path of Exile experience in the following ways. Rampage is not being introduced to the core game in its always on feature, so you're not going to go around and get Rampage effect when you're killing a lot of enemy, which are really pretty sad, but at the same time it's understandable because that will be really bit overpowered. But if you're using a Rampage specific unique item that grant Rampage when equipped now, so you can get Rampage if you're using the item which give you an ability which are associated with Rampage, and you can play Rampage is available from Sana's map device options. So you can play in Rampage if you're paying a little bit of currency to Sana. And Beyond portals and demons are not being introduced to the core game as an always on feature, but they are available in random map mods pool and as. So if you're rolling a map, if I understand this right, you can actually get Beyond Mob as a mod on it. I think that it's going to be like that. And that's really interesting because I like the Beyond mobs. They were really fun and really terrifying as well, but they were fun. And they are as an option in Sana's map device options, so you can still play on Rampage, and the price and level have been reduced. Note that none of the Rampage Beyond specific unique items have been introduced into the regular drop pool. Sana's map device offers some ways to obtain the items, so the Rampage only and Beyond only items will still not be able to drop in the core game, but you can obtain them by using Sana's map device, and you can play some Beyond and Rampage specific. General balance. Block recovery is now currently added as added with the stand recovery. So stand and block recovery is now the same. I think it's going to be. And they have changed the name for how level 1 supported by a level 5 blind, for example. Now it says socket gems. Socket gems supported by a level 5 blind. They have just changed the name. It's still the same. And Fire Fury can now use additional skills in Cruel and Merciless. That will be interesting. Probably shooting fireballs or... No, she's going probably to use Flame Blast, and I don't like that, but it will be interesting anyway. And they have some really new, nice, interesting features to your masters. You're going to be able to level up your master much faster when you're playing do the quest on high level. And the monster ability to remove and craft mod is now available at level 7 rather than level 8, and I really like that. And all daily mission on level 6 now take place in merciless difficulty. That's really interesting. Here we have the last things I'm going to cover. Active skill gem balance. Auras and aura-like effect can now affect totems. So I think you finally can hurt a totem with your Rightness Fire. I think Rightness Fire now can burn totems. I'm not really sure, but there says areas and area-like effects can now affect totems. So you can probably burn down a totem with Rightness Fire, which are a very good thing. And summon totem only affected by auras that affect defensive properties. So your aura is going to actually help your totems now, but only in defensive, not in offensive. Summon totem use the summon skill in order to for an offense area have to affect. It must be affected by the summer, not the totem. So I don't really understand that, I'm sorry. And here's one thing I like really much. The mana cost of Elemental Hit, Glacial Hammer, Infernal Blow, Lightning Strike have been reduced. They have generally been lowered by 1 mana point, with Glacial Hammer reduced to the same as Lightning Strike. And that means Lightning Strike, Infernal Blow and Glacial Hammer going to be much cheaper. And if you think about it, Glacial Hammer, Infernal Blow and Lightning Strike are the 2 main elemental and even Elemental Hit are the 4 elemental melee attacks you can do in the game right now, if I think getting right there. And I really like the Lightning Strike one because I have a Lightning Strike character, as you all know. Arctic Armor's protection against fire and physical have been reduced at level 20 by 189 to 161. So it's not that extremely powerful anymore, but it's still really good. And we have Cyclone, which are really fun skill to use. It attacks slightly slower, so it's a little bit slower, but it have equivalent increase in damage, so it will do more damage but attack slower. It now deals damage immediately when it is used. In addition to its periodic damage, the Cyclone is no longer targets enemies, only locations. So it's only targets location but no enemies. You cannot press an enemy and it will not just go for that enemy. It only target locations now. Alright, here's something I'm not that happy about because I love this skill. I'm just gonna highlight that here. Dual strike damage penalty have been increased from 10 to 15, but that is just a little changes, so it will not be as high of and not be a bigger of a deal. And we have Herald of Ice and Herald of Thunder have been changed from spell to cast active skill type to indie cast that deals secondary damage and not spell damage. I don't really know what that means actually, if I'm gonna be honest. So I think you cannot boost damage by having more spell damage. I don't really know. It's secondary damage, so I don't really know. Puncture now bleeds for 10% of the hit damage at all levels, and it also gains more increased physical damage per level, so you will probably not one-hit enemies with puncture anymore. I think it was a little bit too powerful before. And Raging Spirit have the damage reduced at higher levels. There's no chance at level 9 scaling to level to 8% less damage at level 20 of the game. So that would be interesting. Shield charge now work with no primary weapon equipped. So you can be a face breaker and you still shield charge. Why not? That's really interesting actually. And here we have two blades created by Val Double Strike. You may Val Double Strike actually make a copy of yourself which attacks will now look exactly like you. And Val Haste attack speed and cast speed have been reduced by a flat 5% at all levels. And now we have support gems. The block chance reduction supporting now does not increase the mana cost of supported skills, so it will be free to use now, and in addition it actually reduces dodge chance as well. Cost on critical strike cooldown have been increased from 1.1 seconds to 1.5 seconds. Should not fill the entire screen with projectiles when you're using it. It's a little bit sad, but at the same time it's a bit understanding. And Cold to Fire now has mana multiplier reduced from 110% to 100%. And Curse and Hit now starts with 50% curse reduction instead of 10. So they nerfed pretty hard the Curse and Hit. And that's actually a good thing, because Curse and Hit are very powerful. So they have nerfed that. And increased critical strikes now starts at 90% strike chance, increasing to 147 at gem level 20. That provides an extra 1 critical strike chance per 1 of quality. Increased critical strike damage now provides 50% critical strike multiplier up to 69 at gem level 20. It now provides 1.5 critical strike multiplier per 1 of quality. So if you have quality 20 of critical strike damage, you will gain 10 extra critical damage. So that's a good thing actually. So yeah, that's pretty much it. There are lots of more. They have some balance. They have some passive skill tree balance, when I already covered in some other videos. And I hope you guys like this, and I will apologize for my little bit bad English. Sometimes hard to read, but I'm going to have a link to this site in the description. And thank you everyone for watching, and have a good one.